The following program may contain strong language and mature content. Viewer discretion is advised.
Oh my gosh, it is Friday Junior. Yes. Hello, everyone. This is NicoleDVick. Welcome to NicoleDVick Live. I'm so excited to be here with you all. I have been under the weather for the last about 24 hours, but all of a sudden, I guess just being here and being so excited about who's going to be on the show today, I feel better all of a sudden. So this is kind of my medicine of sorts, and I'm really excited. It's August, and summer is winding down, but for some reason, it feels like it's getting hotter. I had to pull my fan out. I haven't had to do that this whole time. So I'm like, what's going on? Summertime, you playing me? I don't know what the problem is. But it's all good. We're heading into fall. A lot of kids are going back to school. Y'all be safe. Wash your hands, wear your mask, whatever you need to, because if we got COVID still, because it ain't gone away. Now we got the monkeypox. It's just a lot going on right now. But we're not going to focus on that because trust me, it's a lot. So we're not going to focus on that right now. We are going to talk this week to the fabulous, winning, wonderful, I can't even think of any more adjectives, women of Pyromedia Network. If you didn't know, there are an amazing group of women that have shows on the Pyromedia Network. And this week we're going to talk to them. Now, you may be wondering before I go into the guest, y'all be like, where Nomsa at? Nomsa was busy and she will be not here this week. Today. I think I'm still recovering, but we will catch up with her in September. Okay. So she sends her, well wishes and whatnot, but she won't be here with us. So we'll catch up with her next month. All right, so let's get to our guest. We have 4 fabulous women with us. Tasha Champion, Fallon Hamilton, Kristen Askew, and Pastor Kimberly Irving. They are here, and we are going to have an amazing conversation. Bring them on, bring them on, bring them on. Hello. Oh my gosh. This is so exciting. I am really happy to have all of you with me. I will say I have been watching all of you or listening to all of you, just, being nosy. What y'all talking about? And I'm really happy to be here with such a phenomenal group of women. So we're going to go one by one a little bit to talk about, what your shows, who you are, but then we're going to just kind of do, popcorn style. I have some questions, but we'll start with the logistical stuff. So I'll start with co-pastor Kimberly Irving. Can you tell everyone about your shows, who you are, and then we'll move on to the next guest?
Absolutely. So I am co-pastor Kimberly Irving from Church One in the beautiful city of Long Beach, California. I co-pastor with my husband, Bishop William Todd Irving. We have been doing that for over 30-something years. And we are excited about all of that. I'm excited to be here. And thank you for having me, first of all. My shows, I have two shows actually. I have a show and a podcast. And my podcast is 10-minute tips for your relationships. That was something that I started, I think, in 2018. And I was just doing it at work during my lunchtime. I would just go, I really tried to start doing it with Facebook Live, and the Wi-Fi was so terrible. So I would just tape all of these 10-minute tips for relationships, and then I would upload them onto Facebook, and it would take literally about an hour and a half because the Wi-Fi was so bad. I was determined to make it happen. And then I met Kwame. And the magic started happening where he took my show to a whole nother level. I mean, some of the things that I saw him do with my show were amazing, but I talk about relationships, all kinds of relationships. And then my podcast is Coffee with Kim. And actually, the funny story behind that, Coffee with Kim, really was what I call my women's Sunday school class. We would take the fellowship hall and transform it into like a little kitchen. We had tablecloths and teacups and little trinkets, and I would teach Bible study while they sipped coffee and had donuts and cookies and things like that in the morning. So I just took that because I loved it, Coffee with Kim. And so it is a time where I just talk to folks, or either I'll just have a conversation. And I just wanted to be in a relaxed environment where you're sipping on whatever you sip on and just listening and enjoying the information that's going forth. So that's me in a nutshell. I'm a mom of 4 adult children, been married 37 years.
So you definitely have the wisdom, the knowledge, and the experience to be able to speak on the things that you talk about. You know, you're not one of them folks that 25 talking about marriage. Like no. We want to talk to the folks that's doing it well, and have that insight. So really appreciate that, and we're gonna come
Thank
back to
you.
you because we got some
Okay.
things to talk about for sure. Tasha, come on now, come on.
Hey, Miss Nicole, thank you so much for having me. I thought this was the cutest idea. It's so amazing. We are just incredible women using our voices as our power to bring awareness to whatever we want to talk about. But as for me, I am Tasha Champion, the She Nominal coach. She Nominal is the magnified woman who chooses to heal as opposed to having excuses, a woman who will fix the crown of another woman and hold her up when she feels down. So that is the definition of she nominal. My show is She Nominal. I interview just amazing women doing amazing things and the occasional he nominal man, because there are some incredible men that are doing wonderful things as well. But I always wanted to just bring women to the forefront, talk about the things that they are doing, because everybody is not on a 1 million follower platform, but you still have something important that you want to give to the world, that you want to share with the world. And so I wanted to give women that opportunity, as well as give a lot of myself, because I'm a transformation empowerment coach. I help women heal. I help women who feel like underappreciated, overworked, they can't get from under their to-do list. And I teach them how to unapologetically make their self-care their priority, guilt-free.
Love it.
So
I
yeah,
love that. And
that's
if
what I
y'all know, my self care is my nail care. So that's me.
Yeah. I
Every
watch it all the
Sunday.
time.
So I love that. I love that. All right, Fallon and Kristen. First of all, I love this title. I'm like, ooh, because that's what we say. Oh, you better than me,
yes.
baby. Woo, woo, woo. That's how we come. You better than me, because baby. So I'm like, I love that. Tell us
Thank
about
you.
this podcast, because this is amazing.
Yes, thank you so much. And especially thank you to Kwame and the whole Pyro family because we are like beyond excited to be a part of the network. And really, You Better Than Me was born out of just everyday conversations we have with each other. You hit the nail on the head with the You Better Than Me. I live in Houston. I'm an attorney, I'm a writer, poet, all these great things. And I just randomly downloaded an app during the height of the pandemic. And it connected me with the wonderful Kwame and the wonderful Kristen, who live in different places, obviously, but we kind of connected and just formed a bond on this audio platform. And then the idea was presented to us that, you know what, y'all have such great chemistry. We need to do a podcast. So we got together, we brainstormed, and we figured that You Better Than Me was such a right euphemism that we both use all the time. We all familiar with that. So that's kind of how that idea was born into the world. And I could pass it over to Kristen for the intro.
Hi, ladies. Thank you, Nicole, for having us on the show. I'm really excited to be here. As Fallon mentioned, we met on an app during the pandemic and we have formed such a wonderful friendship. So I feel like the podcast for both of us is just an extension of our friendship. It's just us speaking to our little sisters, our little cousins, and we're pretty much just navigating this thing that we call Black womanhood.
I love this. This is amazing. I'm hearing all these different sort of um, points of inspiration or motivation from all of you to want to do what you're doing as far as the podcast or the video podcast. Can you all just kind of briefly tell me what your why is? Like, what's that one thing that's I have to do this. I have to share my message with the world. To kind of help it move along quickly, I'll just name people because y'all be gonna start talking at the same time. Kristen, since you talked last, you can go first. Your why.
I think that my why is I'm pretty much the connector throughout my group of friends. I always say I know a little bit about a lot of things. So I think that's just my why, connecting people to the things that they may not know at the moment. I may not know 100% about it, but I might know about 10 or 15%. And that I know, I can connect you to someone that knows a little bit more. So that's my why, just connecting people.
I feel that because I think I'm the same way. Like I might not know everything, but I can at least get you to the next stop
Yes,
and
yes.
help folks.
And that's important.
Right. And oftentimes it's more than I had someone I was helping with something, and he was like, "You just told me more in 30 minutes than I've talked to like five different people that are experts, and you just told me more in like 30 minutes." I was like, I said, I need to start charging you. But anyway, that's another thing. Fallon, what is your why?
So I think that I am just a born communicator. I probably struggled growing up to like share my voice. So I always found like solace in words and the written word. But now that I've got older, I got a little bit more confidence, I've been told that the things that I actually have to say and share with the world are meaningful. So I feel like it's kind of being not myself, my full self, by like keeping my voice quiet. So I feel like there are so many messages and just so many life experiences that I've actually experienced myself that I would be unjust to like keep it all in. So even if I'm not writing or if I'm not communicating in some form, I feel like I wouldn't have a purpose. So this is like the words have power. I take that mantra like to here to the heavens. Like it's what I'm supposed to be doing. And Pyro just gave me this platform that I hadn't even thought of to do that. So that's my why.
Awesome. Kudos again to Pyromedia Network and to the executive producer, Kwame. Co-Pastor Kim, what's your why?
Wow. I have several whys, but the one that I will focus on tonight is the fact that I've been married 37 years, and probably about year 15, my husband and I went through a most devastating situation in our marriage. And I remember the fight and the effort and the work that it took for us to just pick ourselves up and move ourselves out of that situation. and into a more healthier situation in our relationship. And I remember feeling like I owe it to anyone and everyone that I come in contact with that is open to the information to share what I've learned over the years and the wisdom that I have been given as it relates to marriage and relationships.
That's beautiful. I love that. Tasha, your why?
My why is I spent so many years like smiling on the outside, being the bubbly person. And on the inside, I was weeping. I was devastated. I was searching for people to love me. So I was accepting behaviors that I had no business accepting, even from my now husband. Like it was a lot of, if you continue down this path, you're going to keep repeating these same years. And so I had to awaken to the idea that there was some healing that I needed to do. There was a purpose that I needed to discover within myself. And it started with learning who is Tasha, not the titles, not mom, not auntie, not sister, not daughter, but who is Tasha Champion. And once I was able to see who she is, the purpose was birthed through the pain. And I just really set out to make it my mission that women could understand that the power to heal is within them, and they don't have to continue living their life in this cycle of dysfunction or discord and disconnection. So I just really wanted women to know that if you're here, it's not impossible to get to that next step. You just have to like really open yourself up. And it just became my why that if women could feel what I feel now after discovering who I am, we're just all going to be big, bad, bold, fearless women.
That's an amazing process. I know I've gone through it, been in situations like, what? And then
Yes.
but at the moment when you in it, like, no, this is it. No, and just so sure that this is the thing. And then it's like, oh no, this is like literally could potentially cost me my life, messing with somebody that means me no good. The whole premise of my first book, Pushing Through, was one of the things I talked about was a relationship I was in, and I'm like, this dude literally could have caused me serious harm and injury. But anyway, I won't. That would be the whole episode. We talking about that. But I feel like one of the things that seems like a common thread amongst all of you is this idea that I talk a lot about lifting as you climb, right? That we have this obligation as Black women to make sure that we are bringing our sisters with us, that we're not just like, oh, well, y'all figure it out. Even though I do sometimes hear that amongst our sisters, I don't hear that often, thankfully. What I most hear is, hey, I'm finna make sure my sisters are good. Let's go together. That's so important. And I wanted to hear from you all any examples of that, any guest on your shows or anyone that you have worked with that has been that example of lifting as you climb it, even if it was you. I just want to hear some of that, those stories, because it's really important as Black women for us to do that. So just wanted to hear anything about that from y'all.
Go ahead, Pastor Kim. You go ahead.
Oh, thank you. I was going to talk about my very second podcast, and our producer Kwame would probably attest to this. The very first podcast I did was a podcast with me and my sister. And I only have one sister, and we talked about our relationship. We talked about our relationship being on a pause because of some things we were both going through, and how we were so happy that we allowed ourselves to come back together. But the second one was Sisterhood Part 2. And that was when I brought my 3 daughters in along with my sister. And when I tell you, there was not a dry eye. We actually did that podcast together at the studio, and there was no dry eye in the room. Kwame was crying, we were crying, everybody was crying. And it was because we had never, not that we had never heard each other say some wonderful things and some things that were very uplifting and helpful that we had done for each other over the years, but it was just such a good space to hear it, in concert with myself, my sister, my daughters and their relationships. I have 3 daughters, and their relationships with each other and how they were so different, but yet so useful and purposeful. And you know, they had their issues, of course, but they always came back to a place of, that's my sister and I have her back. And no matter what, I'm going to take care of her.
Yeah, absolutely. Tasha?
Beautiful. For me, like what I find is I attract who I am. And so I find that the women I come in contact with are women who want to continue to uplift everyone else, because it's in our stories, it's in our experience that we get to really pull back and say, hey, what do you need? Because we only go through things so that we can learn, and we're supposed to use that lesson to help somebody else for when they go through it. So I think probably one of my biggest shows about, you know, giving back is I did a show with a really close friend of mine, Denisha Jeter, and the show was called Excuses versus Accountability. And she and I both talked about when we lived that life of being in our excuses and using those excuses to not move forward, to not have more, to not have better in life, and how we had to learn, hold on, you play a part in this misery. So how do you take accountability for where you are and how you move forward? And then how do you use that to help support another woman? And my goal is, if we can reach the younger generations, but I understand everybody's got to go through their experiences, but if we can share what we've been through, and maybe out of 10 mistakes, if we share what we've been through, maybe you only make 8, you know, we've done a great job. So I enjoy the women, I call them phenomenal, but the women that I get to meet and have in my life, we're all a part of uplifting the next woman.
Absolutely. Fallon and Kristen?
So for me, I feel like it is not only our duty but obligation to make sure that the woman standing next to us has the same resources, the same knowledge. I am a firm believer that there is no competition except yourself versus yourself. So a lot of people don't want to lift as they climb because they think somebody is going to run past them or go higher than them. And that is like the worst way to think. Nobody has the same recipe as you. Nobody has the same special sauce. So just don't be afraid. You might learn something or even get a clue or just anything, a message from another person that can like lead you to where you're supposed to be. So that's how I handle it. I'm nobody is in competition with me but me.
I feel that.
I love that.
Weird. Kristen, you have anything to add?
No, I'm going to agree with Fallon on that one. I will say we have not had any guests on our show yet, but we hope to do so in the future. But one of the things that I do like about that Lifting as You Climb, just getting the feedback on some of the podcasts where people that don't have sisters or don't have a lot of female or women that they look up to in their lives, being able to listen to the podcast and come back and say, hey man, I never knew that this situation could be like this, or I thought that I would be like this when I was 30, and now you're telling me that it can be this way as I age. So I think that's always just such a good thing to like be that big sister that someone may not have, or be that, you know, that cousin that someone may not have.
Absolutely. And I think one of the reasons why I started the other video podcast I have with my daughter, she's 25, she'll be 26 in March, was for that reason. Like, let me help women that have adult children learn how to relate to their adult children. And then I also felt like we often feel like younger folks don't have a voice. So I wanted her 25-year-old Black woman voice to have a space, because it's like I raised her. So I feel like if I don't think she has anything good to say, then what the heck? That's my fault, right? So I also feel like it was just really, really important. And we actually had co-pastor Kim on one episode, and it was really great.
It was
that intergenerational sort of perspective, and we talked about a real situation about sometimes us parents can be we think we are good parents, and sometimes we
not as good as we think.
Let's be real and let's do some reflection on ourselves and stuff. So I think it's so important to remind everyone, as Fallon said, there is no competition. There shouldn't be. And I will even say, even if you think you can get ahead of me, girl, you go ahead. Go.
Right.
Go.
That means it's your time.
Tell me what you need.
Pave the way.
Yeah. If you
I
if you
agree.
feel like you can do that, then do it. And then just come back and run and tell me, what's going on, so I can be up like you. So
Right.
I think that's really, really cool. Let's see, role models. We have 5 minutes until our commercial, so I just want to do a quick, just real quick, if you can tell me who your role models are, and then we'll go to break. Co-Pastor Kim, role model.
Ooh, one of my most dearest role models was a woman that really helped me get back into education. For a long time, I was, working little odds and ends types of jobs, raising my kids. And I remember there was a woman, her name was Lagatha Payton, and she's passed on now. But she said, you know what, you would make a good teacher. And I was thinking, I don't know. And so she got me a job as a teacher's assistant at Crenshaw High School.
Okay.
And I did that for several years as I went to school and became a teacher at Crenshaw High School.
Okay.
And so she was definitely like my educational role model. I think my spiritual role model, I would say, is my another friend who has passed on, Pastor Andre Burke. She was just like one of the realest people that I've ever met in my life, and was just a great example, a great teacher, a great preacher, a great person. She was a keep it real. I don't really hang around with a whole lot of first ladies. I hope I don't get in trouble for that, but I don't. I'm probably one of those who's cut from a different cloth, and so I just kind of do my own thing. I love them, don't get me wrong, and I'll help them or reach out to them in any way they need. But that's me. But she was one who was just an awesome person, and so I'm kind of like looking for another role model, someone who is here present with me now, and so that's pretty much where I am with that.
Okay. And it's so funny. I actually live down the street from Crenshaw High School. If I walk out my front door and look, I can see the back side of Crenshaw High School.
Really? Oh, yeah, I love teaching there.
And I wanted to go to Crenshaw so bad. My mom was like, no. So that's a whole other conversation.
You know what? A lot of people thought it was a bad school, but when I was there, I loved it. I loved Crenshaw.
Yeah. It's okay. All right. I guess we could go to our break now, and then we'll do the rest of you tell us your role models. I'm like, while I am sad about not getting We are back. I don't know about y'all, but I always, when the commercial is on, I'm in the back. Exercise. Okay, we were talking about role models, and then I got sad because I didn't get to go to Crenshaw, and then Tasha had she got to go to Crenshaw. And actually, I would have been class of '96 if I had gone. So we would have been probably at the same time. But
Right.
It's okay. Who's your role model, Tasha?
I swear it seems like the role model is whatever woman I'm talking to in that moment, because I learned so much from so many different women at different times in my life. But my standing role models are definitely my mom. I watched her come out of a 35-year marriage with my dad, who I always say she probably shouldn't have been married to more than 35 minutes. And then I watched her go into a loving relationship. So coming out of my own marriage, it let me know like what's possible, and that love still exists, and you don't have to be bitter or anything like that. So my mom, my aunt Val, my aunt Tracy, my cousin Bianca and her husband Ken, they're definitely like my spiritual mentors and role models. And I mean, honestly, it's just I'm surrounded by them. To not name them all is almost an injustice. But like I have so many. I'm so incredibly blessed that my healing led to all these women being around me.
That's amazing. And we haven't finished yet, but I kind of want to mention and make note of the fact that no one said, Rosa Parks or Maya Angelou, or, you guys are not talking about people that are on television or that we read about in books. You're talking about real life people that have made an impact. And I think that that's so important. And actually, there is also nothing wrong with Rosa Parks being a role model, if that in fact is the case. But I think it just also speaks to the fact that there are people around you that have the ability to make impact on your life and can help shape your life. So I love that. Kristen, your role model.
Yay, my turn. So I think that my role models are my grandparents. My grandfather is deceased, so I was raised by my grandparents, but there are just so many life lessons that I just can think about to this day that have stuck with me. With my grandfather really showing me what it's like to be a man and raise a family and be the head of the household. And with my grandmother, she's still here. Just her, even though they were older, and I always joke and say I was their youngest child, just allowing me to be my free spirited self, even until this day, showing me how to love myself, showing me how to love others, teaching me about God. And one of the most important things, I say this to Fallon and to Kwame all the time, just letting me know that, God, uses us people. So we see God through other people. And one of the things that my grandmother always says to me when I'm going through something rough or when something happens, I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't believe this happened. She's like, God always has a ram in the bush. And I have always found that to be true for me.
Wow.
That's beautiful. I love that.
Is.
I was like,
Hallelujah.
I'm like, that spoke to my spirit. Alan, who's your role model? This year is.
So lately, Kristen's grandma also has been one of my role models because I get down with her, because when she had that ram in the bush, it took me to my grandma. So my mother and my grandmother are both role models for me.
Awesome. I love it. This has been amazing. So let's switch gears a little bit. Black women have had it rough. I mean, I was gonna say over the past few years. I feel like we've always had it rough. It's always been a thing. Like I literally just saw something that said we make like 52 cents for every dollar that a white man makes, but yet we're the most educated. And it's like all these things that are kind of happening to us, but we continue to push through and persevere. What do you think our most pressing issue is today as Black women? What things should we be most concerned about? Areas of concern, areas where we need to focus our efforts collectively as Black women. I'd be really interested to hear sort of your thoughts on those things that we need to move on and act on. Who wants to go first?
I'll go. So for me, when I look at the younger generation, I feel like social media and becoming that it girl, getting the thousands and thousands and millions of followers, using your body to be what attracts someone to you. I feel like, it already adds to how people look down on Black women. And then it's like these young girls are pushing to kind of follow in the steps of what they see as great, what they see as money. And I feel like we're not taking the time to develop and love ourselves. Like Kristen said, her grandmother taught her self love and how to love herself. A lot of us have to discover that on our own. And I feel like we're become like this younger generation is becoming more and more disconnected from that self love because social media shows us your likes is your love. If you can twerk and get a lot of likes, that's your love. If you can do a video dancing, that's your love. And I feel like if we can bring these girls back to self, back to who am I when I look in the mirror? And is this what I want people to see when I'm 20 now? Do I want people to see this when I'm 50? And I feel like if we can kind of start catching that right there, it will really help us because I just don't want to continue to see Black women be who people look down on when we're all so freaking magical and powerful. And I want these young girls to know that.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing because, like you said, we often get sort of looked down on. But again, when you look at everything else, we're up here. We're the most
All the
educated.
way. Yeah.
So it's like, but then we also kind of get, I don't know, it's so weird, and I really don't understand it. Um, but I agree with you. I think social media, even for me, and I'm not 20, I'm like, it's very distracting. I'm like, I'm in school and I'm trying to work, and I'm like, oh, but let me see what's going on. I can't even pay attention to it. I'm like, shoot, I'm a lost cause, and I'm well past the age of the 40 something years old. So
But you use it responsibly. You know what I mean? It's like you might check it in the middle of the day, see what's going on, what's laughter, all of that. And sometimes it's the news because you'll get stuff on social media before you turn on the TV. So I think responsibly, great. But you're not looking at like, okay, Nicole is not loved if this video is not liked. Nicole is not loved if I don't have thousands and thousands of views. And I think that's where we're getting it twisted. And I just want to bring girls back to, but who are you?
yeah, absolutely. I agree. I agree. All right. Anyone else? What other issues should we be thinking about when we think about Black women collectively? Because I think that is a big one. But is there anything else?
I was thinking, even as Tasha was talking, and I thought about social media. I thought about how social media is really playing such a big part in so many people's lives, and not just the young people. I mean, it's some of us older folks out there trying to get it in as well. But I also thought about the question that you asked prior to, and I thought about, wow, I really don't have a mentor, someone here today alive that I am accountable to. I have friends, but mentors are different. And so I thought about, we really need to get I don't know, I don't want to call it get back to, because there may be some folks out there who are really doing the mentorship thing pretty good. But I remember there was a time where I did more mentoring, and I think mentorship for us as Black women, or women of color, to help each other, like you said, lifting each other up as we climb.
Yeah.
But just really being there for one another, and not being in so much competition. That I think that's something that has always, I've always frowned on that, the competition, and probably did not have a whole lot of female friends even growing up, because I was never with the competition. I always wanted to be like, hey, you do you, I do me, but let's do us. And so I think mentorship, with women younger. I'll be 58 in October. And, I feel like I have a lot that I can offer other young women, either my age, below my age, just so that they don't have to make some of the same mistakes that I made in my life.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think actually your suggestion would actually solve what Tasha's talking about, right? So if these young ladies were mentored and had a stronger sense of self, then they can make different decisions about their social media presence and other things that they do. So yeah, I mean, I agree. I don't know if we do mentoring as much now as we used to do. I feel like we probably would save a lot of folks a lot of pain, hurt, drama, and offer them a lot more encouragement if we were able to do a lot more intentional mentoring. I think that would be amazing. And I feel like Fallon was going to say something.
Yes, I was going to say, I feel like just normalizing conversations about health and safety would be in that is some would be necessary. We don't necessarily talk about it. I've heard people just share things about their bodies or like just it or mental, and we are like, whoa, that's not normal. Like just talking about fibroids or talking about safety and just taking care of your body. I think normalizing that type of conversation would be something that needs to be normalized as well.
I agree. What was I going to say? And I know that to me, that's the positive side of social media. Like sometimes I go on TikTok or I go on YouTube and I'll see Black women really being very vocal about, hey, take care of your bodies, or hey, I'm going to teach you about social justice or some of those things. So I feel like there's definitely a downside to social media, but there are still very strong Black women that are on social media that are educating and really kind of bringing information to a lot of folks that don't necessarily, know or get any of that information anywhere else. Kristen, you have any thoughts about what we should be concerned about as far as Black women?
I think one of the things I was going to say was also mentorship, because I do know that just in my community, like in the DMV area, I feel like I do have a responsibility. There are people that are around me in Southeast DC that don't know anyone in their family. Their family members don't know anyone that has, any friends or anything that has a college degree. And I'm not saying that you have to have a college degree, but if that's something that you want and you can't see it, then you can't see past it to actually get to it. And so I definitely think that mentorship is so important. But I also think that, while we are in the process of mentoring, I think we also need a safe space for specifically young Black girls, because I feel like from the time that we are birthed, there are certain stigmas that just come along with being a Black woman. I understand the social media aspect of it, but I also feel like for Black women and Black girls specifically, we don't have a chance to be. Fallon spoke about having conversations. Growing up, there's conversations about not having sex. There's conversations about different things like that, but there's really no conversation about if you have it, what's next, what you should be doing to protect yourselves. And I feel like some other people that may not look like us, they have these conversations and maybe they have more open dialogue. I don't want to say for sure because I'm Black, but I feel like just growing up, other people had open dialogue with their family members and they were allowed to just be themselves. I feel like every moment we wake up, you have to look at, if I wear this, how's it going to be? And you just don't have a safe space to be yourself. Fallon and I speak on our platform about 20s, 30s, 40s making mistakes. And one thing about making mistakes is you can always fail forward and you can always reinvent yourself. I'm not trying to get too preachy, but his mercies are brand new every day. So we have as long as we wake up and we have another day to breathe, we have another day to get it right. So
Very true.
Something you said reminded me of something. Once again, going back to social media, I was just on Facebook, and Facebook now the reels are big. There's like TikToks, right? But I literally just came across a young Black woman, and her reels are things that my Black parents said to me that didn't make no sense. And one of them was, she got to, talked down to because she had red fingernail polish on, and she was a young child. She was like, I don't even know what you're talking about. But they were telling her only ladies of the night wear red nail polish, and the girl was like confused, like, well, I don't even know. Or another one I came across on her account was things that men said to me that didn't make sense, that were really creepy, and men were saying these, and I'm like, that's the kind of conversations I think, again, where social media is beneficial, because it's like, that don't make no sense, but there are people that are saying stuff like this to your Black daughters,
right?
That need to be
Right.
like, excuse me, don't talk to my child like that, right? But sometimes we kind of ignore it. Oh, that's just but I really like it. She did a whole series of those on her Facebook account.
Yeah. You know what, Nicole, can I say something really quick about what you just said? Because I feel like we don't speak out and exercise our voices. I know I had for years, there was a friend of the family, I'll put it that way, that gave me creepy vibes every time he came around. And I've been knowing this person for many, many years. And I never said anything to my husband about it. And I remember I recently told him, we've been married 37 years, and I recently told him about this person who's a close person in the family, about it. And he said, you've never told me about this before. I said, every time that person would come around me, I would freeze up just in my body. I didn't want them to hug me, to kiss me, they invaded my space when they spoke to me, and I never said anything about it. And I'm going to be 48 years old, but probably 3 years ago is when I spoke to my husband about it and made him aware of what I was feeling when that person was around.
Yeah, we got to speak up and protect our girls, both sides, from the BS in the family, because sometimes the family will have you wrong too, and the social. It's like we gotta just have like a 365 around our girls. But Kwame said there's a question. What do you feel that young women, specifically Gen Z and below, need from older generations in order to be successful holistically? That's a good question, and I'm like, that 365-degree protection.
Honesty. 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 And like Kristen said, we got to have these conversations. I spoke with Kiana Shaw last night on my show, and I call her the teen whisperer. And it's like, you're telling your kid not to do something, and yet they're watching you do it.
Yeah.
And for me, like, there was a time that I didn't protect my children from a relationship that I was in. And when I came out of that and I healed me, I had to go back to my kids and be honest with them.
That's right.
And tell them, mommy made a mistake, and I will never do that again. And I made the mistake because I wasn't healed. But it's like, I feel like so many of us try to hide our past from our children because we're afraid that they may make the same mistake. When in fact, if we can talk about it, have that open dialogue, then we have grounds to create that safe space for that child to come to us and say, you know what, I feel like this, or I don't. We have to create that safe space in truth and honesty. Don't be embarrassed about your past. You went through it for a reason.
Right. And I think the other side of honesty is all the other stuff. Me and my daughter, we haven't posted it yet, but there's an episode we talked about loss and death. I'm like, girl, I'm going to die one day, and I need you to know this about where everything is and what to do. So all of that we have to be open with our kids with, because I think, we feel like they'll figure it out, but that's not true. And another thing that came to mind when you were talking, Tasha, even if we're not honest with our kids, they pick up on stuff. They pick up on, so you might be thinking, oh, I'm keeping it from my kids. No, you're not, because they can feel the fear. They can feel all the other stuff that's coming off of you. They don't know where it's coming from, but they know something ain't right. And it's like, it's not fair to not just kind of hold that back from them, so I agree. Anybody else? We have about 5 minutes.
I was going to say transparency. I feel like, just sometimes you have to get naked in front of your children, your girls, and just be who you are. Just show your scars, your wounds, everything, what you've been through, and just put it out there and keep it real with them. Because sometimes people are walking around this world thinking that they're the only ones going through something, when there's a bunch of us out there who have been. I remember going through something thinking nobody has been through what I'm going through. And the thing about it was, the sad part is, the people who had been through what I was going through at the time, they wouldn't talk to me. They wouldn't share with me. They wouldn't comfort me, and so that put me in a really bad position. So I said to myself, if I ever meet another woman who has gone through what I have been through, I'm going to open up. I'm going to talk to her and share with her. Also, my husband texted me and told me that I gave my age wrong twice.
I heard you say 50 and then 48.
I will be 58.
Okay.
58. Husband, I'll be 58. Okay.
Can I add really quick? I feel like we need to unlearn that behavior of what happens in the house stays in the house.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
I think we have to unlearn that.
Yeah, absolutely. Kristen, Fallon, because we got to close on out. We didn't talk this whole time through. Any advice for the youngsters, the Gen Z and below?
I don't have any children, but what I will say is, I think about in different cultures where they have the quinceañera when you turn 15. I think about in Black cultures, maybe we should just start some new traditions, because I think that when a girl becomes a woman, having her cycle, that is an important and a pivotal moment in life to have conversations about different things. I also think when you graduate from high school, that is another pivotal moment to have conversations. I think when you turn 21, and I think it was co-pastor Kim, you mentioned that your sister and your daughters came together. Get all the women that that your daughter or your niece or whatever feels comfortable with, get them together in a room, get a little goodie bag, make it seem like a whole event. But I think it's definitely needed. I think it's needed.
Absolutely. Fallon, close us out.
Yes, I was going to say that Tasha dropped the mic for me when she said what happens in the house stays in the house, because that is not the case. We need to learn how to let that celebration come out. We need to learn how to let that trauma come out so we can fix it. We need to let these swept under the rug conversations, let them not be swept under the rug anymore, and really just start acting for I said, saying, you know what, we're tired, we're hungry, we're happy, we're whatever feeling, let it out loud, live it out loud. And I feel like as Black women, we've been told to silence ourselves so often that we need to be expressive as all get out. We need to let people know, like, this is what we're doing, this is how we're feeling, unapologetically. So that's what I would say.
Boom. That's it. That's all. I mean, y'all have been such amazing guests. Kwame is already telling me we need a part 2. We might have to make it happen, because there's so much wisdom, knowledge, experience in this. This has just been amazing. So I thank all of you for being here. So as we close out, thank you everybody for watching. You can find me on my social media, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. All of that is under NicoleDVick. You can find me on my website, www.NicoleDVick.com. You can pick up copies of my book, Pushing Through and Push Through. I have 2 books. They're on Amazon, wherever books are sold. That's where it's at. And then what else? I think that's it. I think that's all. Oh, the episodes with my daughter, Pushing Through, our video podcast every first, third, and fourth Thursday. All right, you guys, thank you again for being here. And thank you all for watching. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.